Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Warhammer 2 Core Magic gameplay. This time we're on the Bloodbind Woods, playing as the Force of the High Elves against the Force of Fair Brettonia. And for this build I actually decided to go with something a bit different. I've kind of been messing around with different builds against Brettonia. I've tried out, unfortunately due to my opponent counterpicking me, I've run a Lithanar against them. My usual build is something usually with Techless, Double Noble, and then a lot of Dragon Prince play, and just a little bit of infantry. I've tried some very infantry builds, all sorts of stuff. And I figured Tyrion back in the day, but I figured, you know what, let's try something with Bolt Throwers and Phoenix Guard, and a small cavalry contingent to protect it. Somewhat inspired by the recent match I actually had. From the Brettonian perspective. So, going over this build. For my Lord, I'm rolling with Techless. I do think Techless is a really good choice in this matchup. Alariel is a popular pick. Personally, though, I'm not the biggest fan. I really do like the Flaming Sword of Ruin. I really do like the Net, Enfeebling Foe, Flock of Doom, Regrowth, all those just such amazing tools. And Scroll of Hoeth is great if you're fighting against Fey Enchantress, or if you're fighting against a Lore of Lifecaster or Loon or whatever, and they're diving in to hit you with all their buffs and debuffs. You can hit them with a Scroll of Hoeth, shut them down, buy yourself some time, win the fight before they manage to really get their abilities back up. And I think that is huge. He also does, of course, have some pretty cool buffs. Kindle Flame synergizes nicely with Flaming Sword of Ruin as well as the Fireborn. And, of course, Shield of Sapphire is nice if you're spamming spells. Wild Heart, not bad. Flock of Doom, great for melting trash. All sorts of stuff. Alongside him, we do have two nobles there to provide some AP, anti-large, and some decent flexibility. And in the back, we do have the Fireborn Regiment of Renown. So these guys, absolute beasts of a unit. They've got very good stats. They'll dumpster basically any cavalry in the game, except I think like the Royal Griffites. So they're really, really pretty nuts. And they do have a nice little bit of physical resist there. And with some regrowth and support from Techless, they should be able to do all right. For the rest of the build, well, 5 units of spears spread out to sort of cover the front line, 2 bolt throwers to apply pressure to my opponent, shut down his artillery if he had brought any trebuchets, and sort of focus whatever key targets we need to. And then 2 units of Phoenix Guard to protect them. For my opponent, he has brought a very interesting build. He's got a roll of Pegasus Knights here in the back, Vanguard deployed behind me, and these guys will be looking to sneak up on me from behind. He does have Lewin out here on the flank. Lewin, in my opinion, not the way to go in this matchup. Obviously, he is a very potent duelist. He's a very potent damage dealer. Definitely not to be sneezed at. With Brettonia, you can pull off a lot of different builds, so don't get me wrong there. But I definitely do prefer the Fey Enchantress in this matchup. About King Louis here, with full kit, is going to be an absolute menace. He, of course, does have that sort of Corone debuff, which is pretty crazy. He's got Lion's Shield, which makes him pretty resistant to my shooting. His regen, of course, is pretty potent. He's got Foe Seeker, all that sort of stuff. You can see the bolt thrower shots flying in, and literally every single one whiffs. So pretty pathetic stuff from the Elven Gunnery Crews. Well, that's my opponent's build. Well, he does have a Damsel of Life over here. She does have Earthblood, Regrowth, and Shield of Thorns. Frontline is mostly Spearmen with 2 units of Footsquires thrown into the mix, and then a whole bunch of Peasant Bows in the back. Usually with the cavalry dominance you have as Brettonia, you don't have to worry too much about protecting your backline. So these Peasant Bows definitely could swarm. Had I, say, brought archers or Sister of Avalon, they could definitely be a threat. In the meantime, Damsel of Life becomes my new target for the bolt throwers, and we're going to be trying to knock her down a peg and pick her way at her HP just a little bit. You can see her losing quite a bit of HP there, losing about 7 or so 100 HP. While in the meantime, my opponent is trying to sneak up with a few more of his cavalry units through the woods. He does have Questing Knights, as well as a unit of Knights of the Lionheart, who are basically your discount Grail Knights, as I'm fond of calling them. They do cause fear, which is kind of interesting for cavalry. They've got magic damage, and they do have encourage, but realistically they're basically really just budget Grail Knights. They don't have the immunity to vigor, they don't have physical resist. They really are very much like Grail Knights. Their stats are actually comparable. I do believe their stats are actually in some cases better than Grail Knights, which is pretty cool. In the meantime, though, the Damsel of Life has actually healed herself, and so I took the opportunity to pick away at my opponent's Knights of the Realm, because I'm like, forget it. My opponent's gonna now sort of knows what's up, he's dodging, and so I'll be better spending my time better picking away these Knights of the Realm, and that's what we're doing. Meantime, the archers are whittling down my spearmen, and things are not ideal for me. My opponent definitely could just shoot me up with his archer mobs here and push in once I'm softened up, but he does kind of get a little greedy here, jumps Lewin in. We're going to start shooting him with our bolts a bit, do some damage. The Fireborn here are going to get a bit of a haggard charge that's disrupted a bit by their own troops, but they're going to do some damage there to Louis. He does pop Foe Seeker, stand your ground, Lion's Shield, and I do believe he pops Sword of Corone there, so debuffing me completely. And yeah, he's gonna be a tough nut there. So we're gonna pull away there with the Fireborn, not looking to get stuck in this fight as Knights of the Lionheart charge in. Of course, their magic damage is going to be bypassing my physical resist, and the Fireborn definitely don't actually want to be fighting these guys right now, especially with their charge, because these guys do have 68 charge bonus. They definitely are not necessarily pushovers. Obviously not a top tier cavalry, still very, very potent. But in comes Teclis, as was this Noble Goon Squad. They're diving in, and they're going to start cutting up these Knights of the Lionheart. And in the meantime, we do pull our Phoenix Guard into the fray. The Bolt Throwers chipping away these Questing Knights, whittling them down. The cool thing about Bolt Throwers, they fire so quickly, and they're so precise, and they're just able to pick these guys apart. You can see now the Questing Knights down to 31 models. They're losing a model a shot, basically. And it's going to be tough for them. Some of those shots, they definitely are whiffing, but every shot's a kill, so basically. So it's pretty cool. In the meantime, the Knights of the Lionheart here basically dumpstered. My opponent there was trying to get an Earthblood off, but I do believe he probably moved his Damsel of Life. Or actually, it looks like he accidentally cast it on himself there, so a bit of a misclick there. But in the meantime, Fireborn do overchase here. They're going to get in on these Questing Knights, and the Bolt Throwers are going to do a little bit of chip damage now, focusing on these Pegasus Knights, who are going to dive in, unfortunately, on my Bolt Thrower crew and shut them down, because my Phoenix Guard here pushed up to help the spears zone off these Knights of the Realm. So my opponent's heavy cavalry pressure, definitely a threat here, and his archers are starting to be a nuisance. That said, Louis makes a major mistake here, a bad life decision, if someone would say. He dives in, he thinks he can take this fight, and instead he gets surrounded, and the nobles are in there. We hit him with an enfeebling foe, we've debuffed him, and now the Fireborn are in the pits as well, and despite Foe Seeker, he is getting beaten down. And the unfortunate thing here is that Foe Seeker is going to run out pretty shortly, and once Foe Seeker's gone, his mobility is not going to be that good, and his ability to extricate himself is going to be basically non-existent. The Fireborn here are actually going to unceremoniously escort the king off the field. Unfortunately, the fact that Lewin is so beat up means that the beloved son of Brettonia is hitting his troops, giving basically everything on the field for my opponent. Frenzy, you can see his foot squires up to 34 melee attack, 36 weapon strength there. Some pretty nuts stuff. The Spearmen at Arms way better now because they have Frenzy, which is so insane. Over there, my opponent does take his Royal Pegasus Knights, pulls them away from the Bolt Throwers that they've been harrying to go after Teclis. And in the meantime, he's going to take a bit more of a pounding from my Bolt Throwers, because we're my remaining Bolt Thrower crew. And Teclis here getting beaten down pretty badly. Teclis was very squishy, only 50 armor. Not exactly the tankiest of lads. Getting shot up by archers as well, though. They're probably doing more friendly fire than help. And so we do pop our Potion of Troy there. We're going to pull away our Potion of Koroi, and in come the nobles. And the nobles are going to be able to muck this thing up, and block my opponent there, and prevent him from getting in, and we're going to be able to save our boy there. Earthblood does go down, but unfortunately, I don't think it's that valuable right now. The problem is that most of my opponent's troops here are very badly mauled because of the sort of kills, and full model kills from Bolt Thrower, full model kills from the nobles, and in some cases perhaps even Teclis. So they don't get too much done over there. Lewin finally does go down, so my opponent now losing his lord, and the Bolt Thrower keeps wailing. It's able to whittle down those Royal Pegasus Knights, whittle down all of my opponent's cavalry. Over here, the spears come in, fighting the Questing Knights, tooth and nail. Teclis actually rides in from the flank. Teclis, not a great melee combatant, but not terrible either. He does have 30 and 40. You know, he can hit every now and then and do some damage. So we're able to force those Questing Knights off, and suddenly things are looking very grim for my opponent. We still do have these Phoenix Guard very, very healthy and just crushing these Foot Squires. Now that Loon's removed from play, now that he's dead, the beloved Son of Brettonia buff is not proccing. And so the Frenzy's gone, the Phoenix Guard are crushing these guys. The Bolt Thrower crews are remanning their guns. This crew, I think, only had 6 models left, but they're remanning. Over here, the Damsel of Life trying to be sneaky, but in comes the nobles with their polearms, cutting her down to size. And as she tries to flee, we are actually going to net her down, preventing her from escaping. But at this stage, it simply doesn't matter. My opponent's leadership is completely buckling. Some of his troops here fleeing. You can see the Knights of the Lionheart down to 7 models. These spears in full retreat. And it is going to be GG for the forces of the High Elves. So, a somewhat back and forth game. Definitely my opponent managed to sort of chip away early on with his archers. He managed to get some good early pressure on with his cavalry. He on one flank, the flank where I had to pull my cav mob over to one flank, to the left flank there, from my perspective. And in the meantime, my opponent was definitely heckling and harassing me with his Knights of the Realm and his Royal Pegasus Knights elsewhere on the battlefield. So getting some good value there, getting some good work done. But ultimately, the fact that Lewin, the Questing Knights, and the Knights of the Lionheart just got mauled so horribly, and the fact that so much of my opponent's efforts were essentially spent killing this front line, meant that in the late game, my opponent had most elite troops basically all gone. His cavalry was basically annihilated. He lost this first pocket, the Questing Knights and the Knights of the Realm early on. He lost Lewin, and then it was basically just the Knights of the Realm, the Royal Pegasus Knights, And then those got shut down trying to snipe Techless, and at that stage we did have the 2 fairly healthy nobles, the Fireborn, and then 2 very healthy Phoenix Guard, which obviously, especially as ammo starts running low on the Peasant Bowmen, is basically impossible to deal with. Foot Squires are no match for sure. Damsel of Life is not going to be doing very much there, and honestly, neither Pegasus Knights or Knights of the Realm. They're not going to do much. It's why I think my 2 cents in this matchup, if you're playing as Brettonia, this is, in my opinion, a very slanted matchup towards Brettonia, but in my opinion you have to bring Grail Knights. They are a must bring in this match. Their dual nature of being able to bunker bust, they can deal with infantry mobs, they can cycle charge Phoenix Guard. If your opponent goes with for sort of a doom box, this wasn't what I did here, but like some players do enjoy doing their doom boxes. Grail Knights can crack that with some concentrated cycle charging. And I do believe I had some comments saying that you're better off with Grail Guardians, but I just want to actually mention that Grail Knights will do you quite a better job because they just have so much killing power. You can bust into your opponent's backline, kill off, say, Eagle Claw Bolters very, very quickly, and then get out of dodge. With the Grail Knights, you can cycle charge Phoenix Guard down. It's just so very potent. You don't have to go with like the full-on kind of almost cancerous builds. I like the run with Brettonia where it's 4 Grail Knights and a Grail Guardian unit. You can obviously go lighter on Grail Knights, but still 2 or 3 are, I think, very, very useful at very least. But regardless, well played to my opponent. Definitely was in some ways a bit of a back and forth match early on. It's simply that at the end game, my opponent basically traded his more elite troops for most of my garbage troops, and so when push came to shove, the units I had left standing were just way more valuable. And that's definitely what you got to watch out for. That's definitely why I suggest Grail Knights. As for this build, I do actually think it's a reasonable build. I think definitely I made some misplays. One of the big problems is that had my opponent been a bit more patient, honestly, its infantry line would have eventually mauled my spearmen. I would have been forced to probably commit the Phoenix Guard in to try to plug it up. Now, the Phoenix Guard can obviously stem that tide. They can hold these troops up forever and probably soak up the arrows pretty well. But that would have opened up the opportunity for my opponent to isolate this mob of heroes and Dragon Princes and sort of try to pick them apart, because Royal Pegasus Knight's very potent if you get the Questing Knights in there. If you get Lewin in there with his debuff, this sort of blob of cavalry can definitely crush my blob of cavalry probably. But definitely tight fight. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do hope you found it entertaining and fun to watch. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, do not hesitate to post them down below, and I will do my very best to respond as soon as I can. I've been hearing that the audio is a bit soft lately, so hopefully this is better. I've been messing with the settings and trying to make it a bit louder, and so hopefully it helps. But regardless, I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.